This is the Vacation Rental Success Podcast, keeping you up to date with news, views, information and resources on this rapidly changing short-term rental business. I'm your host, Heather Bayer, and with 25 years of experience in this industry, I'm making sure you know what's hot, what's not, what's new, and what will help make your business a success. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Vacation Rental Success Podcast. This is your host Heather Bayer, and as ever I'm super excited to be back with you once again. I'm recording this from Gulf Shores, Alabama, as you may know, where I'm now into the final month of my stay. And I have to say it's been absolutely fantastic. The weather's been glorious, the beach walks have been wonderful. It's been such a great place to spend some focused time working on a few new projects for the vacation rental formula community. But as always happens when you've been somewhere wonderful for a while, I'm starting to look ahead to getting home and getting back into the next phase of things. And one of the big things coming up very soon is the launch of the second cohort of our AI Ambassador program. The first round has been such a success, and we're having a huge amount of fun exploring how AI can be used practically inside vacation rental businesses. Everything from streamlining operations to improving guest communications and helping teams work more efficiently. And as you know, AI is evolving almost daily. Every week, there's something new, something updated, something that changes the way we think about the way we run our businesses and even how we live our lives. So if you're interested in joining the second cohort of the AI Ambassador program and learning how to champion AI inside of your own business, keep an eye out over the next couple of weeks as we start sharing more information. You can check the show notes for some more details or just reach out to me directly at heather@vacationrentalformula.com and let me know if you are interested. I'll make sure you get all the information when the enrollment opens. Now, as exciting as all this new technology is, sometimes it's just refreshing to come back down to earth and have a conversation with someone who's been part of this industry for a long time. Someone who understands its history, its evolution, and where it might be heading next. And today's guest is exactly that person. I'm delighted to welcome today someone who has spent more than 2 decades deeply immersed in the short-term rental industry and has truly experienced it from just about every angle. Heidie Henriksen has been part of this space for over 25 years, and she began as a host herself before moving into property management, and then she did, much as I did, gained hands-on experience building and operating vacation rental businesses. Along the way, she also stepped into the technology side of the industry, launching and scaling a disruptive online travel platform. So what's fascinating about Heidie's journey is that she's worn so many of the hats that you are all familiar with: host, operator, entrepreneur, and now industry advocate. And today she is part of VRNation, a non-profit organisation that focuses on strengthening the vacation rental industry through education, collaboration and advocacy. Through VRNation, Heidie's working to bring together independent operators, property managers and industry partners to share knowledge and raise standards across the sector. She's also been travelling across the southern United States, hosting roadshow events that connect operators face-to-face and provide practical education for those who are navigating today's rapidly evolving landscape. And that's where I caught up with Heidi in Gulf Shores a few weeks ago. She often describes her approach as blending governance know-how with entrepreneurial energy. And I'm really looking forward to exploring what that looks like in practice and what she's seeing on the ground as our industry continues to grow and change. So without further ado, let's move on over to my discussion with Heidie Henriksen. I am so delighted to have with me today Heidie Henriksen. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, Heidi. Thank you so much for joining me. We had a very brief conversation in Gulf Shores at the VRNation roadshow a few weeks ago, but I'm looking forward to having this time, extended time, to get to know you a bit more.
Yeah, thank you, Heather. Excited to be here. I know we started chatting years ago, even pre-COVID, about doing something like this. And so excited to make it happen.
I know. I was looking back on that earlier on. I thought, oh my gosh, pre-COVID, when you think about it, you think, oh, it's only a year or so ago. But it's not. It's 6 years now.
And we're still having the ripple effects.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
PTSD.
Heidi, so you've worn every hat in this industry. I read your LinkedIn profile. It's like you've been a host, a property manager, non-profit leader. No. Let's start with how you got into this industry. And because I've been in the industry about 28, 30 years, you've been in nearly as long.
Nearly? I'm trying to catch up to you, Heather. It's been about 25-ish years. And I started as a host, an individual host, actually, with just a couple properties. I was in aviation at the time, and my clients would come in for flight training for 2 weeks at a time. And I live in a small town. Our nicest hotel was a Motel 6, and they wanted the comfort of home. Excuse me. So I tried to create that environment for them and would rent out my houses for 2 weeks, and they loved it. And that parlayed into listing on HomeAway years ago.
Oh, wow. And then, so many people listening to this don't even know what HomeAway is. It's so interesting. We've just launched our Thrive Essentials program, which is a course for newcomers to the vacation rental industry. And the very first few lessons are, there was life before Airbnb.
I love that. It's like a vacation rental 101
yes.
course, or my history of 101 vacation rentals. I like it.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Because so many people are joining this or who've been around after 2013, 2014. They have no idea what came before. So when you mention HomeAway, it's, oh, yes, that's what I remember.
Yeah. They used to put on some good events also in the Austin area, I recall.
I remember an event. It was my very first speaking engagement, and that was at a HomeAway event in Phoenix. And that's where I met Matt Landau. I met Tyann Marsink, and there are a few other people that I met that I'm still connected with today. So HomeAway holds a spot in my heart. But anyway, go back to what you were saying before I interrupted you.
Oh, no problem. It just parlayed into a career path for me. I fell in love with that type of hosting, both on my side, and I preferred travel that way. So I took a lot of trips and stayed in that type of lodging over hotels. And then I moved into the industry at a property management company in Park City, Utah for quite a few years. We had a very unique concept up there. We had not only about 150 luxury homes that we managed, but we also had a clubhouse with a restaurant, a sushi bar, a spa. And so it was a lot going on, but we replicated that model in other markets like Jackson Hole, in Mont-Tremblant, in your neck of the woods, I think.
Yes.
And in Whistler. So it was a really fun experience. And then from there, I moved into kind of the vendor side of the industry. So I worked for a channel manager for quite some time, a booking channel. I worked on the procurement side of things. And we talked about COVID. That's when I got involved in the nonprofit space. So I helped to co-found. That's when I met you, Heather, when we co-founded Astro with a handful of others. And that's now all part of VRNation and what brought me here today.
That is fantastic. We're going to be talking quite a bit about VRNation, but I love that. I talk to so many people in this podcast, and the first question I always ask is, how did you get into this business? And for so many, it was they saw a gap in a market and they wanted to fill it with hospitality. And that's taken them into weaving paths. And I love to hear about those weaving paths through the industry, when they come from through host to property manager to vendor, and for you, non-profit as well. And now VRNation. So tell me about VRNation, how you got involved with that. Because I remember, I can't remember how many years ago, it was a Northwest vacation rental and
professionals.
Northwest Vacation Rental Professionals event in Bend. First time I'd ever been to Bend. It was fantastic. And it was my first foray into an organization that was so focused on property managers and creating things for them. And I loved that.
And before I jump into that, I do have to ask, do you know why they call it Bend?
No, I have no idea.
It's because there's a big bend in the river right through down.
Yeah, I think, that seems fairly likely that would be why. But yes, when was it named that?
Oh my goodness, I should know that, but that's as far as my fun fact can go.
18 something, I would imagine.
We're encroaching dad joke territory here. I should probably move on. No,
Yeah,
I,
tell me.
I think the whole NWVRP, the acronym, is what we're mostly known for. And that was founded back in about 2011. And I got to know the organization because the whole board of directors is property management company owners. That's the one criteria. No vendors are allowed. And so I worked with a lot of those property managers already through being on the vendor side of the industry. When I first learned about their rebrand and expanding nationally, I couldn't help but ask if they were interested in joining forces with Astro. That led to a series of conversations to where they realized if we're going to go national, we really need somebody steering the ship here and coming on as executive director. And I threw my hat in the ring because for me, that was a dream job, something I'd always wanted to do. So everything aligned perfectly.
What was the actual catalyst behind that transformation from NWVRP to what is now VRNation?
Well, what happened was our board of directors looked at the industry and thought, there's some gaps here from a support standpoint and helping to elevate standards, helping to educate, helping to bring people together. And if you look at other traditional hospitality verticals, take just the hotel space, there's multiple associations out there working with professionals to help them elevate the industry. So we're a little bit younger and up and coming. A lot of people still call us the Wild West of hospitality. And so they decided it's time for us to get involved and back more to the industry. So they made that choice. I think it was about 3 years ago now.
Yeah, I remember when I came and I was thinking I was speaking at the event and I thought, well, I'm coming over here to the Pacific Northwest and I'm from sort of Ontario. It doesn't really come into your area. But I remember speaking to people saying, this is such a great concept that you had there. Why doesn't it go wider? And it's great that it currently has. So what's the gap? You alluded to that a little bit, but what's the gap that the executives saw in the industry that necessitated a new or the reimagined association? What made it necessary? Because there's VRMA. Does VRMA not cover it all? And we're not going to spend much time talking about VRMA, but it's already there.
They do some education for sure. And you're an educator in this industry. You're one of the most respected, most decorated, and yet there's still a tremendous amount of the industry that we haven't reached. So we tried to do some polls early on and found, I think the numbers were around 80% of anyone involved in short-term rentals has never been to an industry event before.
Yeah.
That was pretty staggering of a number to figure out. So where are they getting their information? How are they running their businesses? Are they contributing to the challenges towards bad policy, for example? So we thought, how can we really address this? First off was going national, having a big annual conference that wasn't just in the Pacific Northwest. Second was, how do we go to the people? Because not everyone can come to a big conference once a year. It gets to be expensive. And how do we make that happen? So we're going to go to them. We're going to be more granular. We're going to be very purpose driven. And we're going to pick these select markets around the country and keep going with it years coming. And let's do these mini conferences that are really based around that best practices, networking, and education component, and bring that value to the people.
Yeah, there's two things I want to talk about. One is the roadshow, because I came along to one of your roadshow events. And the second one, of course, is education and what VRNation is doing with education, because that is something really special. But the roadshow, when I met up with you in Gulf Shores, it was right at the end of a long trip. Tell me a little bit about that.
We became a family. Let me just tell you that. If you want to have a great time, despite anything that could potentially go wrong or perfectly, we just all collaborated and commiserated and had a
When
blast.
You say all, how many of you were there? And tell us about the van, because I couldn't figure out how you all got in that van.
It was pretty packed, but it was a lot of fun. I think in the van, we had around 8 to 10 people. It varied. Some people, it was a true bus tour. So some people were doing 1 or 2 stops. Others were doing the whole tour. We really, truly road tripped completely across Florida, starting in Fort Myers and then ending in Gulf Shores, Alabama. And we even drove through snow. There were some things that I just never thought I would see happen, but it was back-to-back events. And it was the same agenda at each stop. So we would bring in a data partner to talk about local market analytics. We'd bring in advocacy groups. and really hone in on what's happening in that area and how to get involved. Then we brought in educators, talked about cleaning standards, safety standards, revenue management standards, and everything in between. And then we brought in educators to run roundtables that were very industry conversational. So really trying to make it an agnostic approach. I know there's been a lot of other roadshows done in this industry. A lot of the educational ones are what seem to really move the needle. And again, we end them with a hospitality hour at each one of these. So it's a no pitch zone, it's a networking event, and it's one last chance to really make sure you get to know everyone in the room. And people walk away with tons of business cards and great connections. And it could be your strongest competitor in the market, and yet you're still willing to collaborate. So that, I think, is the heart and soul of those road shows, and a lot of what our industry stands for. We're here for hospitality, so let's work together to make great things happen.
Tell me a bit about the people who came along to these events. Were they your typical people who go to the national events, or were you finding that people were coming along this is the first time for me to be at an industry event?
I'd say it was definitely a mix. It was probably 30, maybe even close to 40% of the attendees had never been to an industry event before. So in that sense, it was mission accomplished. That's exactly who we were targeting. And then in many cases, a lot of our vendor sponsor partners were inviting their customers to come as well. And that way they can cross-pollinate and share their customers with other opportunities and service providers in the industry. So it's let's all work together here instead of an all-for-one mentality.
And I think we should mention here as well that these were free events. You weren't charging for these, is that right?
They are. They're free for anyone who is in property management or an individual host or anyone involved in those businesses.
I think that is the key thing, because going to a big event, you've got to budget $2,000 to $3,000 when you're factoring in hotel rooms and airfares, and maybe there's some food involved in the big events, but still at either end, you're probably going to be spending. It's a lot of money for some of these small operators, which is why they perhaps aren't going to them. And they certainly can't bring along their staff. And I did notice in Gulf Shores, there was one company that I think brought everybody. They brought all their people. And it's not something they would necessarily do to take them to a larger conference.
Absolutely. That's the goal, is let's get everybody up to speed on what these minimum standards should be. I know in the Orlando stop, Cassiola there was a sea of pink. Yeah, I'm sorry, magenta. But it was so wonderful to have all of these people. A lot of them were maybe new to the team. They'd never been through a safety training before. So they got to sit down with Justin Ford and do his breezeway safety certification, pretty much take them through 75% of it, and then they can finalize the rest online, and they're good to go. So in that sense, I think everybody wins, because then they're all up to speed on what that standard should be.
You mentioned Justin Ford. Now, clearly he's all over the place. He wouldn't be able to get to every roadshow event. But who else have you been bringing in? Who else has been there along the way?
Sure. Yeah, we did both Beyond and Price Labs came in and did revenue management trainings. We had Sean Kemper from ETI Solutions do some chemical safety trainings. We had Brittany Blackman come in and do some team building. I can't recall, was she in Gulf Shores?
Yes, she was.
I think she was.
She and I went out to dinner at the end of the day, which was absolutely wonderful.
And she has such a great approach, because instead of it becoming a lecture, she sits down at the tables and involves everybody in the conversation and really has you invested for that hour. So her sessions work really great. I think that was pretty much everybody, but we fine-tuned the sessions based on the demand of each market who was registering, so that we're really trying to cater to that audience as well.
Yeah, I think were you finding that people were coming in from a distance, or was it all just local?
I think it was pretty much locals, actually. There was, for the most part, nobody was flying in outside of the vendors that participated. And so a lot of them were driving in. I found this is when that cold snap hit Florida. So it's interesting to try and coerce Floridians out of their homes when it's under 50 degrees, but we managed to get some.
So what did you learn from, first of all, was this the first roadshow you've done?
This was the first tour where we went back to back. Last year, we did 4 total roadshows. We did 1 per quarter, where we just went into a single market for the day. And those were a lot less exhausting, I'll definitely admit. So probably what I learned is I don't think I would do back to back, meaning one the very next day. I would put a buffer in between just for everybody's peace of mind. Also learned that lunch was very important. Everybody really appreciated the free lunch for sure.
Yes.
And the biggest piece is the hospitality hour. The people that stayed for that really found the value because it's just such a great networking opportunity. You've already spent most of the day together. You've seen some familiar faces. You don't feel like you're speaking to strangers, and you can just walk up and talk to anyone. And who knows where that conversation is going to lead.
Yeah. And when and where is the next one?
So we have the next tour coming up in Tennessee and the Carolinas. So it's starting mid-May in Chattanooga and going through Asheville. And I think we're ending in the Outer Banks. So that's a 6-stop tour as well. We'll be on the same tour bus with the decals and some of the same sponsors, some new sponsors. And then after that, we have some standalone road shows throughout the rest of the year. So we're going to be targeting Bozeman, Montana, Park City, Utah, Dallas, Traverse City, Michigan, and then Ocean City, Maryland. So we will be bouncing all over the country.
Wow, I think this is just so new and fresh and something very different to get out to the people that cannot attend the larger conferences. How do you get the word out, though? Because I know I was talking to Conrad O'Connell and Adam Norco on the Art of the Hospitality podcast the other day, and we were talking about the 20+ thousand property managers in the US that don't attend conferences. How are you getting the message out to those who are perhaps not registered already with VRNation?
It starts with a really robust database that we've been building for quite some time. And a lot of that has just been industry collaboration to expand on. And I would say some very aggressive marketing efforts in pretty much any funnel you can imagine, from direct mail to social media groups to networking through our various different partners and having them literally pick up the phone and essentially dial for registration. We have an amazing team. We've got an advisory board that helps with a lot of this. And then many of our partners, our vendor partners who have been involved, have been helping to cross-promote as well. So it's been a great success and a huge undertaking.
Well, the whole idea of getting education out to this vast number of people is exciting, because education is something that VRNation really focuses on. So let's move on to that. You're taking education out there in the way of the little workshops that have been happening in the roadshow, but also you're now building out this education platform on VRNation itself. Tell us about how that started and what the idea is behind that, because there have been many efforts in the past at building out online education. Not all of them have been successful. I know, I've been in education for a long time, and I know that it's tough getting people to get interested in it, not only in consuming it, but also in creating and delivering it, because it's not the easiest job in the world.
I think the best way to tell that story, Heather, and you're such an educator, so that's why I love that you asked the question. We can talk about this because this is such a big passion of mine. Can I show a picture, or can I share it with
Absolutely.
you? Is there a way to do that?
Can we do that on here? Do you know, I honestly, there isn't I don't think there is a sharing. Yes, you can.
Let's see.
Can you see the start screen
Can you
share?
see my
That's
screen?
the one. Yes.
Okay, here you go. Can you see this?
Yes, I can.
So this is a paper napkin where the concept for our education started. And it was essentially VRNation in the middle with various pillars of areas within the hosting world that should have emphasis from an educational standpoint. I'm going to stop the share, but just to walk you through, this is essentially what we're calling VRNation Pro Academy. And it's based on 10 pillars of excellence in property management and hosting. Everything from business acumen to revenue management, safety, cleaning, customer service and sales, and on. And this isn't just, let's take one pillar. We all know Justin Ford. We've already talked about him. And the Breezeway Safety Certification has been monumental for our industry. This pulls in parts of that certification, and then it pulls from other safety aspects as well. So it becomes more all-encompassing. It's not just guest safety or property safety. It's also employee safety, business safety, on and on. So that kind of gives you an idea of how one of those pillars are broken down to be more industry encompassing. And this is something that's starting to launch this year. And each one of the pillars, the content is developed by groups of individuals on the vendor side, property managers, industry thought leaders, educators like you. And that's the best part, is it's pulling from all these great minds. And then it's not just a one and done, it's an ongoing program to have this content updated, because let's be honest, the way technology is happening, it's going to have to be.
I know that because I'm slated to do a section on AI in our industry, and I'm thinking, how do we do this? Because it changes every day. But something will come out, and yes, it will be continually updated. But I got the opportunity just to talk briefly to that group in Gulf Shores, just to talk about my excitement about this, because there's a number of things that you've just mentioned, in fact, that I think are so important. It's experts in the industry that are coming forward to deliver this training. It's people that have been in the trenches for decades that are delivering it. It's not the Airbnb expert that's been around for 18 months and now knows everything. These people do know pretty much everything because they've been around here for a long time. And I know all of the education board and who's involved with this, and you've done such a fantastic job in bringing these people in and in having them share that knowledge. The second thing is, and once again, something I mentioned in Gulf Shores when I was talking about it, was that these aren't snippets of education. This is in-depth. It's complete courses and not the little snippets that says, here's a little bit about it, but if you want to know more, you come along and buy my course. And
Sure.
That's what makes, I think, it just hugely valuable and just something that is not out there right now.
This is definitely not just a 101 course. You start with 101, build 201, and even into 301. And we envision that for years to come, actually, in tapping into all of this expertise on this education board. So I'm beyond excited. We're having 4 pillars launch in April around our big annual conference in Denver this year. The remainder will launch both in July and then November. So it'll be an all-year rollout. But the modules can all be accessed online through our learning management system. But I do think it's important to mention that this is free for VRNation members. And so you could join as, let's say, a property management company, and you have maybe 25 employees. They all have access to this education content through your membership as a company. On the flip side, I was speaking with a vendor the other day, and they have a bunch of new employees coming online. They want to have all their new employees go through this education program, because for them, if they come from outside the industry, or even if they weren't ever in property management, there's so much they could pick up on to understand their clients and who their ideal customers are a little bit better. So it's a win for just about anyone in the industry.
Yeah, that's a great take on it. And I've often thought that, and I've talked to vendors in the past who said that their new staff, the new team that comes on board, they need to know what this industry is all about. Because most of them, they're not like perhaps property managers who come in and they've been like you and me. We started with our own single property and wended our way through the industry. New entrants to the vendor world are often, they come from entirely different backgrounds. So having that availability of knowledge, I think, is really great. So what are the 4 pillars that are being launched in April?
Oh, I was worried you were going to ask me that.
I know it's customer service and sales, because that's sort of...
I know customer service and sales is one of them.
Insurance.
I think safety and...
Maybe I'm wrong. I was actually reading it earlier on. Let me hold on. It's on the VRNation site, isn't it?
It's in the works as we speak, actually.
Right. I was sure I'd seen it earlier on.
Okay, I know I have the full list here, but it's not quite broken down easy. So I think operations is also what's coming in April. Marketing. You said customer service and sales. And then the other pillar, it's not sustainability.
No, I'm working on that one at the moment with Frank Bosey from Hostfully and you and Heather Fillmore. Yes.
of Stay Live.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that one. But that's coming maybe later on. But so how are you going to launch this? I want to know how it's going to be launched in Denver at the end of April.
A lot of the educational sessions that we're doing, so at our big annual conference, in years past, we've had maybe 4 or even 5 concurrent sessions happening all at once. And I get the challenge from an attendee standpoint of how do I go to everything I want to see? This is just too much. So we tried to condense that down quite a bit and only have 2 to 3 concurrent sessions at once. So a lot of those sessions are going to be around these pillars, and the people that contributed the content are getting to present it along with other partners on panels, or maybe it's a vendor presenting with a customer property manager of theirs. So it's very collaborative in that sense. But a lot of the content you'll see launching around those in April, late April at the conference.
I am so excited. I'm honored to be presenting on AI as well as alongside Ali Camilletti, who I think everybody who is listening to this should know because she's been on the podcast a couple of times, and Alexis Miller from Cottage Connections of Maine, who is just such a bright and upcoming star in our industry. So we're doing a panel. So yeah, excited about that and really excited about the rollout of this.
Yeah, I can't wait. And Ali and I have been friends for quite some time and industry colleagues. And when it came time to put this whole education board together, she was the first person I thought of to lead the charge. And some days we call it herding cats, but she does it fantastically well.
I could not do 10% of what he does. Because getting volunteers together to actually do something, everybody's so excited about volunteering in the beginning. I'm going to volunteer for this. But when it comes to the actual work, there's times when people just think, oh yeah, I'm a volunteer. So it doesn't have as much priority in their working day. And to some degree, I've felt that myself, and I think everybody does. But Ali has that knack of being like the head teacher, but also being the cheerleader. And
does. She keeps everybody organized and holds them accountable. She stays in front of deadlines. And Hannah, I'm all of a sudden having a blank, but we do have a co-chair that keeps things organized as well. She's with Real Tech. But yes, the whole education board, everyone that's contributed the content, they are purely passionate about this industry and sharing their knowledge. And that's the best part of it, to see that all come together.
Yeah, as I say, I'm excited about this. There will be information on the VRNation conference in Denver at the end of April on the show notes. And please think about coming along and experiencing it.
It is a vibe. I will tell you, we have a conference vibe that we're trying to help people comprehend. And you really have to be there to see it. And it's from everything happens in one huge room. It's not dispersed between a conference center. We truly put the exhibitor hall and all the events in one room. And I think that kind of changes the magic. A couple of years ago, we ended up playing potato bocce when we were in Boise, Idaho. And then the following year was when we launched the Housekeeping Olympics to bring everyone together.
Oh, no, that's something I'd forgotten about. So tell us about the Housekeeping Olympics, because that is such a fun event.
It is. This is going to be the 3rd year that we do it. And it started to be educational with a big side of fun to it, right? Because we're trying to set the standards of here's how beds should be made. And that's why we do the bed making competition. And it's not only timed, but we have a panel of judges that are looking to see how good are their corners, for example. And sometimes to see the owners of management companies that are no longer out there making beds all the time try and compete with this, it's a riot. So we get a DJ, we have music, we have teams participating, and the winners get not only bragging rights, but they also get golden toilet trophies.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So who else do you want to call out in the VRNation world? You've got a lot of directors, and I would imagine you'd love to call them all out, but I'm really putting you on the spot here.
We have an amazing board of directors that I just simply love working with. And we do have, it changes. It's a 2-year term for our board of directors. So we do have a few changing of seats happening this April and some new talent coming into the mix. So that I'm excited about. We do an annual fall retreat with our board of directors every year so that we get that great FaceTime, we strategize, we collaborate, calling out individuals. Dirk Johnson, he's put on the Olympics with me. This will be the third year. I couldn't do it without him. He's like the best educator I could think of to be talking about cleaning.
Not only that, to see Dirk wandering around with different hats on and with his suitcase of props is just something else.
I had to reimburse him once for all the candy he bought at a conference. And that's just what he's always known for, having a lot of great candy and then the good hats. But he definitely keeps us entertained. So Brian Olson, he's been on our board for quite a few years. He's been in the past president seat, and that expires this April. So I think he'll still be an ambassador. He'll still be involved in one of our advisory boards for member growth. But he's just been such a great sounding board and a steward of even back to NWVRP days. And then Tara Lorimer, our president, she had to step into that role a little bit quickly this year. And she's just been charging with it. She's a fantastic, dynamic woman to work with. Feel very special about that. And yeah, if I could say one more, our advisory boards, all of them, from advocacy to technology, event planning, everyone that participates in these boards. So while our board of directors is just property management company owners, these advisory boards are people from all over the industry, just like education. And so for that, it's really amazing to see how you can bring various people together and all collaborate on one like project and make some great headway. And it's how we're successful, because I certainly couldn't do it alone.
We've talked a lot about property managers. Is VRNation open to independent hosts as well?
100%. In fact, that's part of the shift. I'm so glad you brought that up, Heather. That was the core focus for ASTRO, the Association for Short-Term Rental Homeowners. And then when it merged with VRNation, that became our focus, is let's try and appeal to any type of host, any size, whether you have 1 or 10,000 units. And that's a tall order. It's tough to really help everyone in between. But that is our goal. That's our focus. And we're charging forward with it.
I love that because years ago, I think it was 2016, 17 and 18, we ran a conference. We called it Vacation Rental Success, the Vacation Rental Success Summit. And we had 2 in Toronto. And then in 2018, we went down to San Antonio. And we refocused a little bit more on the independent owner. And we had so many that came to those events saying that there was nothing out there for them. And I know that there have been some more Airbnb-focused events, but I think it is great to have that venue for independent hosts to come along for the very professional mixed group where they can see how maybe if they grew, they can get into property management and the vendors that are there for them, as well as the property managers.
Completely. In fact, we hold 1 seat on our board of directors for an independent host. And that's something we started, I think it was 2 years ago, actually, because we want to make sure we are still addressing that part of our industry.
It's massive. It's a huge part. And still that expression, we're fragmented, which was around I seem to remember back in 2012, 2013, we were talking about it being a fragmented industry. It still is that case. Do you agree?
It is. Absolutely. Sometimes it's challenging to bring everyone together, especially when you're competitors. But we've had the philosophy of, hey, we can be competitively collaborative. We can still get along. We can still help each other get ahead. I learned this mentality years and years ago. I actually did work for the property management company in Park City, Utah. We would travel the world as a city, promoting the city. We thought there's enough of us here. Let's just get them to Park City and then they can enjoy everything here. And that's what we did. And I sold my competitor. I learned that spirit very early on and it stuck with me. And I think there's a lot of opportunity to continue with it here in our industry. So we get further ahead working together.
So if someone's listening right now and wondering whether they should get more involved in industry organizations, what would you say about why participation in that matters now more than ever before?
Oh, my goodness. It's crazy. I had a couple of meetings this week, even with individuals that have been in our industry over 30 years, took a break, and they came back because of the spirit, the passion, the heart and soul. And we don't want to lose that to the wrong audience, right? We want to carry that forward as much as we can. So that hospitality is the heartbeat of short-term rentals still. And so making sure that message stands strong. It's a tall order to find the unicorns that want to give back and get involved. But when you do, things mesh and we make great things happen. That's how these advisory boards are so successful with us right now. So if somebody wants to get involved, come to our conference, come to a roadshow, go to our website. We're always looking for people that want to get involved and help out and network. And in many cases, it's going to help your business too.
What's the cost of registration for VRNation if somebody wanted to become a member?
Membership is actually pretty affordable. We even introduced a monthly membership cost instead of paying annually, if that's more economical. So you can join for as little, I think it's $199 a year. If you're an individual host, you can join for $99 a year. And you get a lot of great value, benefit, the education piece, discounted registrations to the conference, all of that good stuff. And then we did also lower our conference registration fees this year as well, really to help remove that any barrier as much as possible so that people can get there and make it happen.
That is amazing. In fact, that lower cost for independent hosts and to get all the access to all the education that's then going to become available, that's quite astonishing. So kudos to you and to the VRNation board for making this more affordable, because that is a constant cry about other organizations. It's too expensive. And particularly if you're just a sole proprietor or even a sole proprietor vendor, consultant or coach, it's very affordable for them too.
It's interesting. It relates to education in our country, right? It's expensive outside of public school and high school to still get college educated. But in many other parts of the world, you can do that for free practically, or it's just part of being a taxpayer.
Yeah.
So how could we adopt that same principle with educating people in the industry? And that's where we thought we have to make this free for our members and just move forward that way.
Yeah, I think that is great, because without education, the industry could go in a very different direction. And yeah, I'm eager to see how many more members you can bring on through your roadshow, through the conference, through talking about it like this, because I'm hoping that a lot of my listeners who are honing into this right now are thinking, gosh, yes, I could get involved with this and not only join and get the free education once I do, but also perhaps get involved in shaping the nature of the organization and how it moves forward. Heidi, do you want to wrap up with anything that you'd like to speak to the listeners that perhaps we haven't covered yet?
I think a lot of your listeners are probably waiting with bated breath on that AI topic that you're going to be presenting on soon. But yes, when is that part launching again?
I don't know, but I'm working on it right now because it's going in conjunction with what I'm speaking about in Denver. And it's about foundations. It's getting your foundations. You don't decide you're going to build a house and then just think about what you're going to put in the kitchen cupboards. You've got to put the foundations down first. AI is no different. So that's what I'm going to...
I feel like I need that class.
That's what I'll be bringing into the AI course, which I think goes in the technology pillar. I think that's where it's going to go.
Yes. That does sound right.
I'm not sure when that one's coming out.
And since I'm only a part of 2 pillars of all of this, I plan to be taking all of the different courses and making sure that I'm fully familiar with it as well. Even though I'm an industry veteran, I'm sure there's plenty to be learned. And like we said, there's going to be ongoing updated content. That's the big key piece, is it's not just a set it and forget it concept. This is ever evolving education. Yeah. So I think for that, it has tremendous value.
Heidi, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend with me and to talk about this. I look forward to seeing you in April. Is it 7 weeks away? 8 weeks away? 7 weeks.
Get very close. So yes,
we'll
see you in Denver. Appreciate the opportunity, Heather. Always wonderful to see you too.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Well, thank you so much, Heidi, for joining me today and for sharing your insights and experience. It's always a pleasure to talk with someone who's seen this industry from so many different perspectives and continues to contribute so much to its growth and professionalism. If you'd like to learn more about VRNation and the work they're doing, including their upcoming conference at the end of April. You'll find all the details in the show notes for this episode, along with the links you'll need to register and to get involved. And before we wrap up, just a quick reminder about something I mentioned at the start of the episode. The next cohort of the AI Ambassador Program is starting in early April, and we'll be opening up information about that very soon. If you're curious about how you might start championing AI inside your vacation rental business and help your team use it more effectively, then I'd love to hear from you. Just send me an email at heather@vacationrentalformula.com and let me know that you're interested. And if you'd like a quick chat to see whether the program is the right fit for you, we can absolutely jump on a call and talk it through. As always, thank you so much for listening to the Vacation Rental Success Podcast. I do truly appreciate you spending your time with me each week. I'll be back next week with another AI-focused episode. So until then, take care, and I'll see you soon. It's been a pleasure as ever being with you. If there's anything you'd like to comment on, then join the conversation on the show notes for the episode at vacationrentalformula.com. We'd love to hear from you, and I look forward to being with you again next week.